My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
96% Rotten Tomatoes, an original film, and all we're talking about is this bullshit, frankly. And I'm like, this is an amazing movie that everything clamors you don't make anymore, and America doesn't want to see, right? The two combinations. These two things happen, and we're all sitting in the corner talking about this crap. And it's like, hey, this is what you guys all clamor about all the time. You look stupid.
Welcome to the Ankler Podcast. I'm Elaine Lowe of the Series Business Newsletter here at the Ankler on Thursday, April 24th. Today we're talking jobs in Hollywood, where they are, how to find them, and what you need to succeed, whether you're a studio executive, a TV writer, or an online creator. Later on, we're going to hear a silver lining from the industry this week, but first off, we're talking Ryan Coogler's Sinners and the box office drama that's kept people talking all week. With me today are Sean McNulty of the Wake Up Newsletter, fresh off covering Comcast earnings, as well as Natalie Jarvie of the Like and Subscribe newsletter. Sean, how's earnings season going for you?
It's, just the party keeps going, Elaine. So a nice little 8:30 a.m. Comcast hang. Very nice.
Minimal Hollywood talk?
20 minutes before they mentioned anything regarding TV or movies. So just a reminder that Comcast is a cable company, everybody. They are in the broadband business.
They just happen to own a TV and film studio.
One of our top movie studios and theme park companies. Theme parks did get some love early on. But yeah, I mean, if they talked about Hollywood for more than 4 or 5 minutes on a 50-minute call, that's probably about right. So there's
they were
your
like, guys, let's keep it to a tight 4 on the TV and film
and it was
studios.
And it was the CFO who mentioned it. It wasn't even Mike Kavanaugh didn't even mention it in his comments. He's like, and now it's Dave Watson, our CFO, and it was third on his list of things
you
to
go
get
over
to.
this line item that says TV.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
movies.
What is this thing? NBC Universal Movie Studios.
And this is why, Sean, I'm glad you're doing the early morning wake up to handle these calls and not Elaine or me.
I'm not sensing any jealousy from your end of the spectrum there. So Peacock added 5 million subscribers, which is they're tied for their biggest subscriber ad ever. They barely even mentioned that. They didn't mention that fact at all. It's just, the perception of what Hollywood talks about and what actually matters in Comcast land is an interesting, dichotomy. So,
well, shout out to Peacock. You get a little love here today.
Yeah, got a little love. Yeah, thank God for Charter adding you in. I broke all the numbers down in the Wake Up. You can check it out there at theankler.com for today.
Well, Natalie, hey, I'm curious what you make of the Sinners discourse. I mean, it feels like that's been dominating the headlines this week. It's a film that's gotten stellar reviews, had a strong opening weekend, but has gotten a lot of media scrutiny over a couple of things. Whether this $90 million movie is going to be profitable, director Ryan Coogler's deal with Warner Brothers to revert ownership rights back to him after 25 years, and the pressure on Warner Brothers film studio heads Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdy to succeed amid rumors that their throne is in danger here. There's a lot going on in this conversation.
So much. And Sean and Richard had a really great chat about this on our Substack Live earlier in the week, so we don't need to necessarily retread all of that here today. But what strikes me is that this whole discourse is really highlighting how paralyzed folks in Hollywood are about making decisions, how scared they are to take big swings, take creative risks. I mean, I feel like, Elaine, you and I write about this all the time, that executives are constantly worried to, make a big decision and take a risk when, greenlighting a TV show and a movie as well.
Yeah, don't stick your neck out unless your head gets lopped off, right?
Exactly. And now here you've actually got some executives willing to do that. And, they're getting all sorts of negative press for the decision before the project's even coming out, before people even know, how it's going to perform. So that's just going to reinforce that, culture of fear, I think.
Yeah, it's just a bad look overall. It's this is an amazing, A cinema score, 96% Rotten Tomatoes, an original film. And all we're talking about is this bullshit, frankly. And I'm like, this is an amazing movie that everything clamors you don't make anymore, and America doesn't want to see, right? The two combinations. These two things happen, and we're all sitting in the corner talking about this crap. And it's like, hey, this is what you guys all clamor about all the time. You look stupid. It's a bad look, and frankly, the movie has done it's at $71 million. It's made about
It's doing well midweek, isn't
$24
it?
million in 3 days this week. It's going to probably do another $25 million this weekend. That's going to put it well over $100 million, maybe $105 million. And everybody's acting like the opening weekend is the last narrative of a film. And I'm like, people who should know better. The last thing, I've done it myself of like, hey, this looks bad. And it's like, by the way, by the end of the run, it made a certain point. Like, it's one demarcation point on a film's narrative journey. And everybody just jumped on top of it like, well, this is what happened with it. We're done. And there's a lot of eggs. I'm not saying it's like, oh my God, it made out so much money eventually, but like this narrative is not done. And anywhere, it's like a third of the way through its process here, Elaine. So it's just, I don't know. Anyway.
Well, so much of this was spurred by a Vulture story that was published before opening weekend, where some studio insider had said that Coogler's deal sets a, quote, very dangerous precedent and, quote, could be the end of the studio system.
No hyperbole there whatsoever.
Yeah. The precedent being that after 25 years, he gets ownership rights back to this film, which is something that has been done before with Quentin Tarantino, George Lucas. Wasn't this the case for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well?
Yeah, that was a Sony film. Yeah, Sony does not own, the rights revert back to Quentin Tarantino.
And had very similar opening weekend numbers.
This would even, I think, open a little bit bigger, but yeah, very similar.
It was like 40-ish million,
yeah,
right?
mid-40s. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's like this is oh my God, breaking Hollywood, and I'm like, you're so concerned about WBD in 2050, we got to have a talk. Like, I don't think this is really the pressing matter. I get the precedent thing, but even Coogler's like, yeah, man, it was kind of a one-off. The themes are very important to him. And it was like, it wasn't just like, I want to own all of my movies was not the statement here, which is what everybody's implying that like, oh, well, Ryan's going to come back and ask to own the next one. Like all this stuff's being made up.
He's explicitly said it's a one-off.
Yeah. So again, this is all people are talking about it versus Ryan Coogler made an amazing film that people are loving and, and seeing it in an IMAX and a big theater experience. And nobody's talking about any of this stuff. And this is what it should, again, I just think it's a really sad look and a sad moment. So.
I really appreciated Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi's interview with The Hollywood Reporter. It was apparently done on Easter Sunday, where they talked about, the Coogler ownership piece of this. And DeLuca said, this was a competitive situation. He would have gotten what he was asking. Someone else would have given it to him. Warner Brothers just was the one that, did it first or ultimately landed the deal. So, yeah, this talk that somehow this is going to break the whole system is so overblown. And, at this point, Hollywood needs to get a little creative about how they're doing business because clearly what they've been doing hasn't been working. So I don't know why, people want to come out and speak negatively about, a creator, a filmmaker, being able to own the rights to
Heaven
what they're
forbid
making.
the artist owns their art, right? Artists get screwed all the time. Well, and it's, all these themes, Natalie, exactly, that everybody, has probably on the record being against coming around full circle. So we'll see how it goes this weekend, Elaine.
Yeah, it looks like it's headed to a pretty strong second weekend at the box office, right?
If these numbers this week hold up, it'll be very, very interesting. Big weekends, which we'll get to a little later on in the pod.
I still need to see it, and
I'm going to see it this weekend. Yeah,
exactly.
No, same. The only thing this conversation has done is spur more people to go to the movie theater.
And
this
everybody
weekend.
I know who's seen it's been like, it's great, it's fantastic, it delivers. So I've not heard a bad thing about it. So
well, listeners, if you have any thoughts, send them our way at podcasts@theankler.com. But moving on to our main topic for today. Where are the jobs? The entertainment industry ballooned in 21 and 22 during the peak of peak TV and is now in an extended period of contraction. It's been a while, knock on wood, since we've seen a mass layoff in the hundreds or thousands like we've seen at Disney, Warner Brothers, and Paramount over the last 2 years. But there are still quiet pockets of layoffs happening here and there, and an awful lot of people wondering how to find their next job.
Yeah, you were telling people how to survive recently, Elaine. So this is the Creative Executive Survival Guide, I believe, was the name of the piece, right, Elaine?
Yeah, Legendary had posted kind of a rare job listing for a creative executive on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, and these are kind of more like word of mouth jobs. You don't really see like a public listing for it. And, Natalie, you noted that a lot of the comments on that were from out of work entertainment executives looking for their next thing. It's a really competitive market right now. And creative execs is also, it's one of those kind of amorphous jobs where they're tastemakers, they're shepherding a project from start to finish. It's an important role, but one that's also, whose numbers have dwindled a lot over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really fascinating that one job posting got as much action as it did. It just speaks to just, how tough the market is right now. And I would love to know how many people are applying for that job.
Well, also, I mean, just yesterday, Monkey Paw, which is Jordan Peele's production company, laid off their 3 VPs of development and 5 other staff. And this is, Jordan Peele, who's one of our popular filmmakers in Hollywood. So yeah, that sense of security, Elaine, even if you're at somewhere that is a hot place to be or whatever it might be. I was like, well, that's just a little, again, as you said, little signals. It's not these massive, and thankfully the 800 people layoffs and things like that, but just that unease a little bit that goes on there. And I do a job board on the Wake Up Every Tuesday. And, it's not, there aren't a lot of things that publicly posted for those kinds of roles. Occasionally they come up, I will say, but few and far between for sure, Elaine.
Yeah. And on the TV writing side as well, our own Leslie Goldberg wrote about the difficulty in finding staff writer positions on TV series this week. And I wanted to share a stat from her story from one of the major studios, which shared exclusively with the Anchor.
Oh, yeah. This is crazy. Yeah.
So writing for broadcast TV, your sitcoms, your procedurals that run for 20 to 22 episodes a season, it's pretty appealing, right? It's a stable job. It goes for 9 months out of the year. According to the stats Leslie got from this studio, 3 seasons ago, there were approximately 250 staffing submissions for a broadcast TV show. That number has now doubled to more than 500 submissions for broadcast series. And this is for like a limited spot, like a room of like 12 people is kind of on the larger side these days. A lot of these rooms, especially, for a streaming show are maybe like 6 to 8 people big, but on a broadcast TV show, they're usually a little larger. That's still a hell of a number.
Yeah, if you're a writer looking for jobs and haven't worked in a while, Lane, it's like, yeah, I mean, this is what it's new writers and people who are older writers who have been around and Leslie dives into as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first thing I think of when I see something like that is how many new writers are getting squeezed out of this industry altogether if, there's that many people competing for the same spot. I mean, because of course, hiring managers are going to want to, hire the most experienced people they can typically. And it's a lot harder to stand out if you don't have a lot of credits to your name.
Yeah, they're going to go with the showrunners who are reliable, who they've been back to, before. They're going to go back to the same well of writers, right? And I do wonder what kind of impact that has then on the diversity of writers, the diversity of voices, for both women and people of color, and also geographic diversity of people who are just breaking in if everybody's sort of defaulting to safety. But, look at the number of submissions you're getting.
Yeah. And it ties into something you've written about before, Lane, too, of like, it's the pressure of needing to deliver on time, on budget. Like, again, these people who have done it for 10, 15 years are well versed in that. Someone who's done it for 2 or 3 years, they may be, they may be a rock star or maybe a real big creative, but like, can you trust them in the end to go off, write a script, come back, and know you're going to get a product that, an episode you can shoot that's ready to go? So it's just those other factors where the room for error in a budgetary sense, also may factor into it here.
If you trust them creatively and you think they're going to deliver big, but it's like, ooh, has this person ever managed line items on a budget before?
Right.
Well, there are also a lot of tips for success in this story. Some of them are to be original, of course, and also to nail it in the first 20 pages of your script. It's very...
the spec scripts. Yeah, this is really interesting.
Oscar Wilde, grab him by the throat, never let him go. Like, you have to do that from the get-go in order to stand out.
Well, if you have 500 submissions, it's like, yeah, is everybody reading all 45 or 50 pages of
I was surprised that it even said 20. I thought it was going to be like the first 5.
5 pages, but at the Elaine Lowe 5-page rule. That's it. She's got it. Tight 5. That's it.
Well, everyone should check out Leslie's story for the rest of those great tips and also just a sense of what the TV writers market looks like right now. I mean, yes, things are bleak-ish, but it's not all doom and gloom. But when we get back, we're going to talk about where some of those writers and other creatives are going, and you might be surprised at where that is. We'll be back in a moment.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
I'm Natalie Jarvie, and I write Like and Subscribe, a newsletter about the big business of the creator economy. It's a $250 billion a year industry, and it's producing the next generation of stars. If you're on the internet, and if you're listening to this, you clearly are, you can't afford to be out of the loop. In Like and Subscribe, I'll tell you what's next for YouTube now that it's beating Netflix in the living room, what's happening with TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat, and whether Hollywood is still a place for creators to make money, or just a legacy pit stop to bypass. I'll also bring you up close with the biggest creators in the world so that they can tell you what's working, where the deals are, and how they keep growing and growing. So check out Like and Subscribe by Natalie Jarvie. That's me, on Substack, a new subscription from the same team who bring you The Ankler. Go to likeandsubscribenews.substack.com. likeandsubscribenews.substack.com. I'll see you there soon.
Welcome back to the Ankler Podcast, where we're talking jobs with Sean McNulty and Natalie Jarvie. Natalie, in the latest edition of Like and Subscribe, you explored the world of work for hire outside of the legacy Hollywood system in the growing creator economy. What did you find?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of jobs there. Surprise, surprise. It's a growing industry. And, I kind of wonder, in this piece, I wanted to pose the question, do people in Hollywood know these jobs exist? And if so, they should be checking them out, because if you're out of work, if you're one of those TV writers who's going out for one spot and up against hundreds of people, there are other jobs that you can take that are available and that are open right now. And, of course, it's a creative medium, just like Hollywood is, the creator economy is. So a lot of these skills are very transferable.
Well, what kind of jobs are these? Are they all in front of the camera as creators, or are there like administrative positions in this economy as well?
It's across the board. So, I think if you look at an individual creator, oftentimes they are looking to hire an editor or an editor producer, editor videographer kind of role. These are often, freelance positions that can be done remotely from anywhere, and they pay pretty well, especially if you're juggling work from a number of different creators. You can make a good amount of money doing that. Now, individual creators are also hiring for some really interesting jobs. My favorite one was thumbnail designer.
Oh, it's big. It's very important. That's very important, Natalie.
It's huge. I mean, It's so important to getting people to click on your video.
You're talking about those little like tiny pictures that appear next to the YouTube video, where it's usually some person's face being like, and then like a big like impact font headline about like, I ate the world's most expensive oyster or something.
Wow.
Can you tell I've been watching Nick DiGiovanni videos?
I was going to say, Elaine's very specific demo here. I was like, where's she going with this one? I don't know.
Honestly, Elaine, it sounds like you're ready to take one of these jobs tomorrow if you need to.
Open for freelance work, friends.
Exactly. I've pulled up a job listing for a thumbnail designer for Team Jesser. Jesser is a big basketball creator on YouTube, has about 25 million subscribers. They're looking for someone who can create eye-catching and clickable thumbnails that drive viewer engagement. So this is someone who, has graphic design background, who, can kind of understand what might get people to click and get excited. This is a full-time job with 401k and health benefits at $90,000 a year.
Wow.
Now, that's not bad. If you're someone starting out in Hollywood and you're having a hard time finding a job right now, that's a great job for you. And I don't know how many people are stopping and considering that. And, I think there's a lot of opportunity available.
I thought it was interesting that you said that Darman CEO Sean Atkins told you that half of the job candidates that walk through his door come in with zero experience in the creator economy. I mean, does this just kind of mean that like anybody can do it?
To some extent, yes. I mean, I also think the creator economy, while it's been around now for a number of years, is still a relatively new industry. So, of course, you're going to see people from other industries move into that field. I mean, and of course, too, you're going to have, young people just graduating from college, maybe thinking about, is there a job in the creator economy for me? But I think what it really shows is how transferable a lot of these skills are. So the other big category of hiring right now is that a lot of creators are starting to build their own mini studios, their own mini media companies, and you need to build out a full-fledged organization when you do that. So where I'm already seeing some of the migration from Hollywood is in a lot of these kind of executive, more senior level roles. Sean Atkins from Darman Studios has worked at a ton of different Hollywood studios over the years. Disney, Discovery, often in kind of digital roles, but still it was very natural for him to make the jump to a creator economy job. I've also written about, there was an NBA executive who's now running Dude Perfect, a former WME agent who is working with Almost Friday Media. So it's very natural for someone who has the experience, as a mid-level executive in Hollywood to kind of be able to translate their skills to one of these creator studios.
And Dude Perfect is based out of Texas, right?
They are, yes. There are these pockets of kind of production hubs popping up around the country to service these YouTube hubs. So Texas has a lot of creators. Greenville, North Carolina is where Mr. Beast is located. And it's interesting to see people moving to these places because that's where the jobs are.
Yeah, that's so interesting. The fact that it's getting a little more geographically diverse. I mean, but how robust is LA, for example, for creator jobs?
I think LA is still the place you want to be, LA or New York. So I talked to a digital manager. He reps YouTube creators and other creators. And he said about 25% of their client roster is based in LA. We're also seeing Burbank has become a hub for some creator first studios. So Good Mythical Morning, Mythical Entertainment are in Burbank. Smosh is in Burbank. Darman Studios is there. And so is Alan Chicken Chow's Alan's Universe studio that just opened last year. So it is really kind of a concentration of production space and job opportunities.
But even Natalie, it's like also as these companies get bigger, and they've talked about their revenues and so forth, like CFOs, legal department, things that normally may not have been associated with that. It's not just about a creative executive job, like just even those kinds of positions, which are being downsized at studios. There's a different lane there too, Natalie.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Darman Studios right now is advertising that they're hiring for both a general counsel and a CFO, to your point. Compensation is in the $250,000 to $300,000 range, plus bonus, plus equity.
Right,
that's the other big piece of this. These are all essentially startups that could all eventually see an exit. So there's opportunity for growth there too, for someone who is willing to get a little creative about how they're thinking about the work that they do.
This is a good way, too, to reframe, everybody who thinks that being a creator is just walking around with a selfie stick, Like, these are real businesses. This is a real market here.
The money's shifting every quarter. More get the YouTube earnings. We're recording here on Thursday. Later today, that's real revenue. That's advertising revenue. That's being split with these creators. It's like as that goes up, that revenue money that creators are getting is going up. And then exactly right. There's more opportunity there, Natalie.
Absolutely. I mean, I will say that oftentimes these jobs are still paying a little bit less than what you would find in Hollywood, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that ad rates are just a lot lower on YouTube, and the money, while significant, isn't quite at Hollywood levels. So you have to be willing to take a pay cut with the idea that, maybe over time, the payoff will become a lot greater. Also, many of these more creative jobs, there are, many of these studios are looking for writers, they're looking for actors, they're looking for editors and camera operators. These are not union jobs.
No union job here. Yeah.
Yes. So they're definitely the kind of job that you want to look at if, maybe you're just getting a start in the industry. You haven't yet, gotten to the place where you've earned your union card, or, maybe if you've been out of work for a long time and you're ready to make a career switch and you're not going to look back at, that TV production or film production job, there's opportunities for you in the creator world too.
Yeah, and it kind of also building out your network more. These jobs aren't, posted on the legendary company, website. It's like you have to kind of, it's a muscle you probably have to kind of learn, either be eager to build to again, make those connections in it's a different, a different set of people. It's a different world in this sense, Natalie. So again, where do you find all these jobs? How do I find these positions? It's not going to be on some, studio website kind of thing.
Sure. I mean, you can still go to Backstage, and find a casting call, that kind of thing. But, there are these sites like YT Jobs is one.
Yeah.
There's another one called Roster. There are places you can go specifically to look for creator economy jobs.
Check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, lastly, I mean, what's the key to success here if you're looking to shift into the creator market here using your skills as a TV writer or a budding artist in a different area?
Yeah, well, I talked to Sean Atkins about this from the executive perspective. So what he said, he kind of counsels his peers who are thinking about making the jump that first off, you have to know this world. You have to actually be watching this content. A lot of people come in with no creator economy experience and no creator economy interest.
Okay, so even if you don't have experience, you should at least be watching.
Be familiar
YouTube
with the products.
and TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be like if you went to go apply for a job at HBO and they asked you what your favorite HBO TV show was, and you're like, oh, I don't really watch HBO.
Arliss. Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, you should be familiar with who these people are and how their jobs work. Creative skills are very transferable, but there are certain things that are a little bit different. The internet works a little bit differently, and you need to understand that. You also should be prepared that this is startup life. You're not going to have that assistant. You're going to be the one getting in the weeds on that thumbnail photo.
It's not a strict 9 to 5. There are going to be some weekends and nights involved.
Exactly. And then the last thing is, be prepared for that pay cut and, be okay with taking a bit of a risk with, some eventual payout down the line if things are successful.
All right. Well, good tips there. Which, was, again, not all doom and gloom, right? This job market, which brings us to our next segment, Silver Linings, where Natalie, I think we're going to learn a little bit about a silver lining in the industry over this past week to help our audience get through.
I guess I'm the silver linings person on these podcasts because I'm writing about the space that's seeing the most growth and opportunity. But I'm actually going to take it back to, a more traditional part of the business. TV, I think, is thriving right now. There are so many shows on the air or streaming. I'm excited. I know that this is partly, it's the Emmy push season. All the big shows are coming out to get ready for Emmy eligibility. But we've got The Last of Us going. We've got Andor just returned. I've been watching some screeners for some upcoming shows that I'm excited about. And Elaine, you and I got to go to a live taping of Everybody's Live with John Mulaney last night.
I know. It was very excited. I can confirm that everybody was indeed live with John Mulaney.
We sure were. And it was really fun. It was a great show. So I don't know. I feel like I'm inundated with a lot of TV right now. I can't keep up with it all. I'm curious how you guys are feeling about it.
Yeah, it was good. And it was kind of fun too yesterday to just be in like a very traditional, like live with a studio audience, set up. And it was like, oh yeah, TV's fucking magical. Okay.
Yeah.
Like
not only
cool.
that, but it was Christmas. In April.
Christmas show, yeah. I saw that.
It was great. We walked in, there was fake snow, there was a Christmas tree, Santa showed up.
You had Conan and Tina Fey and Ayo Edebiri. It was a good crowd as well.
Well, I was also taken care of by Netflix last night. They were covering The Ankler very well at Netflix. Yeah, so they fed
Did
me
you go
very
to
well.
another wrestling thing yesterday?
No, this is decidedly a different crowd, Elaine. No, this was the Chef's Table Legends event that they did. So we have very well fed last night.
No tables were broken.
Yeah, no, we had oyster. There was foie gras. There was jamon. We had burgers were fantastic. Spicy salted margaritas. So it was a very lovely affair there in New York City. So we were well
You're giving
covered.
us the Richard style rundown.
I know. I feel exactly.
Here.
Yeah, when I saw all the jamon, I was like, Richard would just sit here all night, probably.
Delighted.
Be there, and be just as happy as he could be. So
See, who says these industries are declining?
Exactly. So much fun. Yeah, it's all Netflix, but still, it's all great. Why not?
Well, lastly, Sean, anything besides Sinners you want to highlight? In this, I know we've had a lot of an unusual amount of box office talk at the start of this, I think, comparatively. But yeah, anything else we should highlight in the coming weekend?
I mean, yeah, it's a big weekend in a sense. I mean, you have the Accountant 2, the new with Ben Affleck and John Bernthal coming out, which is again tracking somewhere in the low 20 millions. And Disney's putting. This is not my genre. Maybe Elaine, you know more about this, but Disney's putting the Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith back in theaters, and that's tracking to do at least $20 million as well. So it's the 20th anniversary there. So throw in some Minecraft, and I'm like, you got 4 movies probably doing over $20 million this weekend, or at least 3, maybe 4. So
well, I have feelings about the Star Wars prequels, but all the other stuff sounds good.
I thought I was like, 20 maybe Revenge of the Sith, was that one of the more popular? I do not know this. Natalie, are you a Star Wars person?
Oh yeah, sure. I love Star Wars.
Was this one of the more popular films in the oeuvre?
I don't think so.
That's what I mean, I don't know that people love those movies, but maybe I'm off. I don't know. But yeah, $20 million.
I feel like if you're a young person today, you may not feel the same way we do about the prequel
Jaded
movies.
people that we are. Yeah, exactly
Yeah,
right.
you know, that's
Yeah.
just, it's part of Star Wars history at this
Yeah,
point.
it's 20 years ago, so they haven't seen it in the theater. So yeah, exactly. It's a way to go
Exactly.
see. Yeah, yeah.
Good way to get out with the family and go see a movie.
There you go. All for it.
Okay, talk about a silver lining. Talking
That's it.
about Revenge of the Sith.
Done and
positively.
done.
All right.
Yeah. More to amortize those costs.
Well, that's a wrap on the Ankler Pod this week. Make sure you head to theankler.com to sign up for all of our newsletters and podcasts, from Katie Rich's Prestige Junkie to columns from the Ankler himself, Richard Rushfield. And if you like this podcast, tell us all about it in a rating or review wherever you get your podcasts from, and follow The Ankler on social media. Our handle is The Ankler across all social platforms. Thanks so much to Sean and Natalie for joining us today, and a very special thanks to all of you for listening. We'll see you next time.